The sun had nearly burned itself out over the Arizona plains when Elijah Crow spotted her. At first, he thought she was a mirage. Just another trick of heat and exhaustion playing with his eyes. The desert did that sometimes. It made rocks breathe and shadows move. But this figure didn't fade. She stumbled forward, one heavy step at a time, her silhouette towering against the orange horizon. Elijah lowered the bucket he had been carrying from the well. She was enormous, not fat, not bloated, just built like the mountains themselves. Her shoulders were wide, her arms thick with muscle, her frame taller than any man he had ever seen. Her long black hair hung in tangled waves around her face, and her skin was darkened by sun, dust, and sweat. Apache. Elijah's hand twitched toward the rifle leaning against the fence post. Every story he'd ever heard about the Apache thundered through his mind. Raiders, killers, ghost warriors, men who vanished into the desert and took scalps with them. He had buried 2 neighbors last year after a night attack. But this wasn't a warrior. This was a woman barely standing. Her lips were cracked. Her eyes were sunken. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, painful breaths. She collapsed to her knees less than 20 yards from his ranch gate, sending up a small cloud of dust. Elijah froze. Helping her could mean death. Ignoring her would definitely mean death, for her. He swallowed hard. "Damn it," he muttered. Grabbing his canteen, he walked forward slowly, making sure she could see him. No sudden movements. No reaching for weapons. She looked up at him. Her eyes were dark. Not wild. Not angry. Just tired. He knelt a few feet away and held out the canteen. "Easy. I'm not gonna hurt you." She stared at it like it might vanish. When she tried to reach for it, her arm shook violently. Elijah moved closer and tipped the water to her lips. She drank like she hadn't tasted water in days. It spilled down her chin, soaked into the dirt. Her hands clutched his wrist with surprising strength, though she barely had the energy to hold herself upright. He let her drink, and drink, and drink. When she finally pulled away, her breathing slowed. Her eyes closed. Elijah hesitated. Then he took off his hat and fanned her gently. "You gonna kill me for this?" he whispered, half joking, half terrified. She opened her eyes again, and spoke. One word. "Thank you." Her voice was deep, heavy, like stone rolling down a hill. Before Elijah could reply, her body slumped forward. He barely caught her before her head hit the ground. "Hey, Hey." She was unconscious. Elijah stared at her, heart hammering. If Apache warriors were nearby. He dragged her into the shade of the barn, laid her down on an old blanket, and poured small sips of water into her mouth every few minutes. Her skin was hot, feverish. That night he didn't sleep. He sat on the porch with his rifle across his lap, eyes scanning the darkness. No movement, no sounds, just wind, just stars, just guilt. By morning she was gone. The blanket was empty. No footprints. No sign she'd ever been there. Elijah stood in the dirt, heart pounding. Well, I'll be damned. He tried to convince himself it was all a dream, until he heard the horses. Not his. Many. Dozens. No, hundreds. The ground vibrated. Dust rose beyond the ridge like a storm. Elijah ran to the fence. What he saw made his blood turn to ice. They were coming. Hundreds of Apache warriors on horseback, spread across the hills like a living tide. War paint streaked their faces. Spears and rifles glinted in the sun. Feathers whipped in the wind. They surrounded his ranch. Perfectly. Strategically. No escape. Elijah's hands trembled as he loaded his rifle. So this is how it ends. A horn sounded. The horses stopped. The warriors dismounted. Then something impossible happened. They knelt. All of them. Elijah blinked. What? A path opened through the sea of warriors. And walking down that path was her, the giant woman. She was clean now, strong, dressed in traditional Apache clothing, decorated with beads and bone. Her posture was proud, regal. She walked up to Elijah's fence and raised her hand. The warriors did not move. She spoke. This man saved my life. Elijah's mouth went dry. She turned to him. You gave water to an enemy when you could have let her die. I didn't know who you were, he stammered. That is why it mattered. She gestured behind her. My name is Niall. I am daughter of the Red Hawk, sister to war chiefs, protector of 3 clans. Elijah felt his knees weaken. She continued, her voice strong. I collapsed on your land. You did not steal from me. You did not harm me. You did not leave me to die. She stepped closer. My people came to destroy you. A murmur rippled through the warriors. But I said no. Silence fell. She lifted her chin. This man is under Apache protection. Every warrior slammed their spear into the ground at once. The sound echoed like thunder. Elijah dropped his rifle. Tears burned his eyes. He had given water to a dying woman and gained the protection of an army. But this was only the beginning, because not everyone among the Apache agreed with her, and not everyone believed a white rancher deserved mercy. Far beyond the hills, plans were already being made, and Elijah Crow was about to become the center of a war he never asked for. Elijah Crow didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, but because of the sound of breathing. Hundreds of warriors surrounded his ranch, camped in perfect rings like wolves guarding their alpha. Fires flickered in the dark. Horses snorted. Drums beat softly in the distance, slow and steady, like a massive heart. And inside his small wooden home, sitting on the edge of his table, was Niall, the woman he had saved. She sat upright, her presence filling the room. Her shadow stretched across the walls like a mountain. You should have let me die, she said quietly. Elijah shook his head. No. You do not know what you've done. I know what I did, he replied. I gave water to someone who needed it. She stared at him. My people will not forget this. That didn't sound like comfort. At sunrise, the tension exploded. A horn blasted from the eastern ridge. Then another. Then shouting. Elijah rushed outside. 200 Apache warriors were forming a half-circle, weapons raised. On the opposite side, another group advanced. Faces painted black, eyes burning. Niall stiffened. They are the blood talons, she said. Elijah's stomach dropped. That sounds bad. They believe mercy is weakness. A tall warrior stepped forward. His face bore a jagged scar from temple to jaw. His eyes were like sharpened stone. My name is Taza, he called, and this man must die. Elijah felt the world tilt. Taza raised his spear. He is a white man, a trespasser, a threat. Your protection shames us, Niall. Murmurs spread like fire. Niall stepped forward. He saved my life, Taza snarled. Then you should have died. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Elijah moved beside her. If you're gonna kill me, do it, but don't start a war over me. She looked at him. You do not understand. This is not about you. Taza laughed. No, it is about power. He pointed at Elijah. Kill him or we will. Every warrior tensed. Niall raised her hand. Silence fell. Then she said something that froze the wind. If he dies, leave. The crowd erupted. Elijah turned. What? I will walk into the desert, she said. Eyes locked on Taza. No water, no weapons, no protection, and I will not return. Taza sneered. You are bluffing. She looked at Elijah. He saw no fear, only resolve. Taza's jaw tightened. If you walk, he said, you shame us all. She stepped forward. Then let history decide who was right. She turned and started walking. Elijah grabbed her arm. Don't do this. She gently removed his hand. This is the price of mercy. 10 steps. 20. The wind picked up. 30. Then, a young warrior broke formation and ran to her. Then another. Then 10 more. Then dozens. They formed behind her like a living wall. Taza roared in fury. And in that moment Elijah realized. She wasn't just protected. She was followed. Taza lunged. Elijah didn't think. He moved. The spear grazed his shoulder, slicing flesh. Pain exploded. Before Taza could strike again, Niall caught his arm. With one motion, she threw him into the dirt. The world went silent. No one touched the fallen warrior. Niall's voice cut through the air. This man gave me water when he owed me nothing. She looked at the crowd. If that is weakness, then I choose weakness. She helped Elijah stand. Blood soaked his shirt. She pressed her hand to his wound. You will not die today, she said. Taza rose slowly. You have chosen him over us. She met his gaze. No. I have chosen humanity. Taza spat into the dirt. Then he turned away. The blood talons followed. By sunset they were gone. The remaining warriors stayed. Not because they were ordered to, but because they wanted to. That night they shared food with Elijah. Laughed. Told stories. Niall sat beside him. You will be remembered, she said. For what? For being a man who saw a dying enemy and chose kindness. Elijah looked at the fire. I was just being human. She smiled. Exactly. Weeks passed. No raids touched his land. No thieves crossed his fence. Word spread. The ranch of Elijah Crow became a place of peace. Travelers stopped there. Stories were told. And every time someone asked how it began, he'd say, I gave water to a woman in the dust. Years later, long after Niall had become legend, children would sit at Elijah's feet and beg him to tell the story again. And he always would. Because stories like this deserve to be remembered. Just like yours.